Lord Buddha had said, ultimately we have to become our own lights and seek the light within. You very kindly introduced me. I was a little apprehensive that the introduction of the speaker should not become longer than the speech. At times that becomes a challenge. But looking at all of you here, with your very impressive posture, with your uniform, you exude energy, dynamism, and a lot of commitment in your entire approach. And as soon as I got into the campus and I saw them, so I remembered, because you mentioned I grew up in Pondicherry, yes. And physical education there was compulsory. We had combatives. So I was good at boxing, although I don't look that boxing type now anymore, I think. I was good at boxing. We had wrestling, kusti, wrestling. And there was a specially prepared pit, wrestling pit, specially prepared in the Indian style. And we would have every Sunday in the afternoon, we would have our wrestling bouts there and then go and swim in the Bay of Bengal. And so I remembered those days. I still, if I'm not mistaken, I still hold the record of 100 meters sprint, age group record, and the long jump record also. So, I think Dr. Ayushman, thank you very much. You being the NCC in charge here. Really very, very energized to be here. I mean, if I just didn't have to say also anything and spend some time with you, I would have gone back energized and very happy and enriched. So thank you so much for organizing this. And Dr. Ashish Singh, who's the convener of the Students' Union, I thank you for making this possible, for inviting us here. And of course, Dr. Varinder Kumar, Secretary of the Staff Council, for according all of us such a warm welcome and at such a short notice also. Now, please keep in mind, my one request is I come here as a scholar. Yes, I used to be very closely associated with education and with the Ministry of Education in various capacities. I had the opportunity to serve and to work. My primary inclination is that of a scholar, and as a lay scholar, because I'm not an expert in law. In fact, I requested Jitendra, who's the coordinator from our end. I kept telling him that you should bring in a respectable panel, because just me coming and talking on one nation, one election, I'm not an expert. But yes, I am a scholar, and I have done a bit of my studies as a lay scholar, because this message has to reach people in general, citizens in general. This message need not be limited to only the opinion makers. Yes, the opinion makers form opinion. But then there has to be a larger debate in society amongst people, amongst citizens, amongst the voter, amongst the conscious citizen. And I think that is why people like us, people like you, all of us who are here today, somewhere it forms our duty. It's part of our duty, it's part of our quest to try and understand what this means, what is this all about. The other qualification, one qualification that I have, and that is that I have contested and not, if you don't win an election, it is not successful. But if you look at the percentage and the votes polled, then you can say, well, it was a partial, the whole of April, the whole of May, and the first week of June. And with temperatures soaring 48, 50 degrees, it was a physical endurance test for me also. You had to undertake road shows for 5 hours in the open under 48, 50 degrees temperature. And in the remote interiors where you had no roads, you had to stand on a toto, on an open jeep, and for 4-5 hours together, first half, and again in the evening. Inclement weather, extreme heat, sometimes rains. So I did not do too bad in that also. I did not fall ill in 3 months. I quite fairly managed the, the the challenges of weather, but it enabled me also to connect and to contact uh, the majority of voters in a constituency which had 20 lakh voters. In an assembly constituency, you have 2 to 3, maximum 3. But in a Lok Sabha, it's a quantum leap. You have 20 lakh. In a large Lok Sabha, you have 20 lakh voters. And you ought to be able to connect with them. And even today, in our country, with all the technology, with all the AI, with all the developments that are coming in social media, etc., finally the door-to-door and the eye connect remains absolutely indispensable. So I stand before you to in this against this backdrop. Now, Dr. Kumar has really touched upon the major points. Now, the purpose of this exercise, and I hope that you will continue this, the purpose of this exercise is to elicit point of views, is to elicit opinions. And I would urge all of you, those of you who haven't, those of you who have partially, to please go through the report, nearly 300 plus page report of the Ramnath Kovind High Level Committee on One Nation, One Election. This committee has worked for 191 days, and I'll give you the details of how many people and who were the types of whom they consulted. So my submission is, I may represent a certain ideology, I may represent a certain mindset, but please keep yourself open enough to continue this exercise. Invite all those who want to come and speak to you. They may differ from what I am saying, they may differ from what the high level committee has submitted in its 300-page report. But listen to them, listen to us, listen to all shades of opinion, and then form your own opinion on whether one nation, one election will ultimately benefit us as a nation, as a democracy, as a constitutional democracy. When Babasaheb Ambedkar laid the constitution on the table of the Constituent Assembly, and that was in November 1949, he said this constitution is as good as we make it. So ultimately, everything that we do in terms of expressing, exercising our democratic mandate, ये हम वोट करते हैं, कैंपेन करते हैं, हम सिलेक्शन करते हैं, कैंडिडेट सिलेक्शन करते हैं, हम कौन सा पार्टी को हम सपोर्ट करना चाहते हैं, we express our opinion. I'll in between lapse into Hindi, but my Hindi is obviously not recommended Hindi, so you'll forgive me. All this leads to the kind of government that we want. And we want a government which performs, which is accountable, which is sensitive, which is responsive, which delivers on its promises, and which has a roadmap, which has a goal for this country. Ultimately, all of us would like to see that government. We want our representatives similar at the micro level to be responsive. We want our elected representative to be available. We want our elected representative to be creative, to be problem solving oriented, to be solution oriented, and to be available at every time without blowing his or her fuse off when we approach them. This is the kind of representative we want. If you read through, there's this village which is near about 100 kilometers from Chennai in the Kanchipuram district. Those of you who are students of history would have read the Uttarameru inscriptions. And in 2023, one of the dominant themes of G20 was India as the mother of democracy. You must have followed that. And we did a lot of Y20 programs. The Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Foundation was designated as the secretariat for Y20. I wish we had met earlier. We could have done more programs also. So this Uttaramerur inscriptions, I'll just give you a historic background and then come to the points very quickly. I don't want to tax you because I always believe the one who is speaking feels very good to, he feels very happy to hear his own voice. But those who are sitting beyond the point, one should not strain them. So the Uttaramerur inscriptions were nearly 1100, 1200 years ago. Rajaraja Chola, the great Chola king, it was during his period. And this village had an entire codified structure of how a public representative was to be elected, what were his duties, how he had to perform, and what entitled him to get elected and what made him ineligible for elections. All this was codified. So one of the greatest archaeologists of Tamil Nadu, of the southern region, Dr. Nagaswamy, he is no more. He was a pioneer in the study of Chola epigraphy in the sense the writings. And so he says this was the first ever constitution, one can say. And in that Uttaramerur inscriptions, it was clearly written that if you are elected, then these are your duties. And the duties were divided. There was one in charge for water tanks and irrigation, one in charge for housing, the other in charge for food, all this for roads. And you became ineligible if you squandered public funds for your personal purposes. Not only did you not become ineligible, for 3 years, nobody from your family could stand for elections also. It debarred you completely. Such stringent rules were there. And on the other hand, the focus of the elected representative should be to ensure happiness and well-being of all. This was there in the dictum. So what I'm trying to aim at is that ultimately all the democratic exercise that we do is to ensure that we have a certain quality and level of government and of life as well. Now, I don't know if you were present in January 2025 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the NCC cadres. And he in fact made an appeal there asking everyone to please go ahead and discuss, encourage discussion, hold and organize discussions on this one nation, one election. I'll just repeat his words addressed to the NCC cadres. One nation, one election is not just a legal reform. It is a movement for a new India. Young minds like you must engage in this discussion as you are the future leaders who will shape India's democracy. Period. Plain and simple. Because, I mean, if you talk about the next 25 years, our generation, I say we are the emergency generation. We were born during emergency. You know what happened during emergency. It's well documented. It could have been better documented, but I hope it would be in the years to come. We were born during emergency. We came of age when India celebrated 50 years of our independence. Now, we have crossed youth when India has celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of our independence. And we will be post-retirement, our generation, when India will celebrate 100 years of her independence. But you will lead this country post-centenary of India's independence. And this 25 years, starting from 75 to 100 anniversary of India's freedom, is what Prime Minister Modi calls Amrit Kal. And why is that Amrit Kal? Because the goal is we have to have a developed India, no more a developing India. We would have to have a certain economic level, a certain level in terms of our overall grassroots development. You would not have discrimination in terms of development. Some districts are extremely progressed and others are backward. In terms of public deliverables, in terms of our defense procurement as well as production, in terms of our foreign policy. So there's a goal, there's a broad rubric, there's a broad goal. And in that goal, for the next 25 years, where do you see yourself, and 100 years after independence, where do you see yourself and your country? I think all that is connected to this one nation, one election. As Dr. Kumar very rightly said, there is a dissipation and wastage of resources, of manpower, of days, hours, of time in terms of time as resource, due to a repeated cycle of elections. Now, for the last few years, from 2020-2018, this one nation, one election debate has been going on. In 2018, an all-party meeting was held in Delhi. And there itself, Prime Minister had mentioned in 2018 that frequent elections disrupt governance and developmental activities. Imagine the amount of time, money, and resources spent on separate elections. We must seriously discuss one nation, one election for a stronger democracy. Now, when we are discussing a certain subject, a certain debate of this kind, which is of a national, which is gradually emerging to be of a national level, especially all of you who are students, faculty, we must differentiate between two approaches. One is criticism, the other is allegation. One nation, one election will lead to dictatorship of Narendra Modi. That is allegation. There is no criticism in it. One nation, one election, I have a different point. Maybe, people, if they vote only once, they will not be able to express themselves as to whom they want in the center, whom they want in the state. Criticism that can have an answer. Allegations must be dismissed. They have no answer. Allegations have no place in a democratic debate. You can have criticisms, you can differ. So I think that is one basic approach that we keep. And we should also remember that we are a mature democracy. From 1951-52, from the first general elections till date, elections that have been held at all levels amount to nearly 400 elections in the last 70 years, 72, 73 years. In the sense, I think we have the unique distinction of being a country which has held 400 successful elections at all levels in the last 70, 72 years. I mean, so obviously we don't have to take lessons from Pakistan and countries like present-day Bangladesh also. So we know. And therefore, after holding 400 elections, when we are calling for a national debate on what should be the approach to elections in India, I think it's a fair enough time. The other point that Dr. Kumar made, if you have noticed, if it struck you, that please let us remember that in this country, simultaneous elections were held from 1951-52 to 1967. And you are students of political science, students of history, you can go through why in 1967 there was this simultaneous election was disrupted nearly 55, 60 years ago. So immediately after independence, right from the first general elections, when we were in a very difficult situation, for 20 years, for 2 decades, simultaneous elections were held. So if you say it is a bringing in simultaneous elections now is a clever tactics to introduce one-party domination in this country, allegation. It is not criticism, because this country has seen simultaneous election in the past. I'll take you through, quickly run through you few points in this entire debate. So 1967 was the last simultaneous election. 71, again the elections were called earlier, so there was a disruption. Interestingly, in 1983, the Election Commission of India had revived the idea of simultaneous poll. 67, it got disrupted. 1983, when the present party was nowhere in power, for argument's sake, I'm saying, for argument's sake. In 1983, the Election Commission said, we should revive the idea of simultaneous election. One. 1984, it would be very interesting, and I went through the documents, the party documents. We have a very good online library which you can access. In 1984, the BJP, which was formed in 1980, in its election manifesto, mentions bringing down the voter age to 18. It mentions electronic voting machines, and it also mentions holding of simultaneous polls. 1984. 1983, the Election Commission calls for reviving the idea. 1984, this party's manifesto carried it. Because I have gone through the documents of this party, so I can speak for it. In 1999, the Law Commission's report, Justice BP Jeevan Reddy's reports, advocates simultaneous election together. Now, in 2015, the 79th Parliamentary Standing Committee report, which was headed by a Congress member of Parliament, Sudarshan Nachiyappan, also recommended a phased approach to simultaneous election, calling it a practical solution. And the Parliamentary Standing Committee at that time had flagged this issue. One, it will save resources. Two, it will enable focused governance and policy implementation. And three, it will enable elected representatives to focus in their own areas and in fulfilling the promises it made. This was in 2015. In 2019, all party meeting was called on One Nation, One Election, and September 2023, the high level committee was formed. In March 2024, the committee submitted its report to the President of India after 6 months of consultation. Now, whom did this committee consult? If you look at those that this committee consulted and their responses, it will be a very interesting and a very educative input. The high-level committee consulted a large number of people, a large cross-section of society, and 83% of online feedbacks agreed that there should be simultaneous election. 50% of political parties consulted agreed that there should be simultaneous elections. 100% of former Supreme Court judges agreed that there should be simultaneous elections. 75% of former Chief Justices of High Courts consulted agreed that there must be one nation, one election. 100% of former Chief Election Commissioners of India consulted agreed. 100% former Chief Election Commissioners of India. And please remember that all these former Chief Election Commissioners served under various governments, served under various parties. They agreed that there should be simultaneous elections. 87% plus former state election commissioners, chief election commissioners, agreed that there must be simultaneous elections. And the Bar Council of India, business bodies such as ASSOCHAM, CII and FICCI all agreed that there should be simultaneous elections. So, one cannot say that this committee was biased. This committee went into extensive consultation, and even states such as Lakshadweep, Andaman, Nicobar, and from all corners of the country, as I note, 47 political parties were consulted. Out of that, 32 registered political parties. Not tomorrow somebody opens a political party and say, I want to be consulted. It's not possible in our system. 32 political parties favored it, plus many experts also went and gave submissions before the committee. Am I right? कमेटी के सामने जाकर उन्होंने अपना विषय रखा, अपने पक्ष रखा. इसलिए ये कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव ग्रासरूट्स बॉटम अप डाउन एक एक्सरसाइज इस कमिटी का था. एंड अ फॉर्मर प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, president is beyond political parties, a former president of India headed this committee. ये मुझे नहीं लगता है कि आजाद भारत में ऐसा कोई कमिटी का गठन हो जहां पूर्व राष्ट्रपति इसका अध्यक्ष हो. I don't know, I'm just at least I have not come across. Now what the committee has suggested was that an alternative enabling framework, and what are the challenges, and I'll come to the figures a little later. One is separate elections is a waste of resources, policy paralysis, huge socio-economic burden, and fatigue amongst voters. Now, let us go one-on-one. Waste of resources. We were just discussing before coming here. Now, please imagine that in every election, whether state or central, school buildings are requisitioned, college buildings are requisitioned, teachers have to go on duty, and deployment of security forces. They are on crucial duties in various regions, in border regions, in difficult insurgency affected areas. You have to repeatedly pull them out of those regions and bring them in for election duty. And if that election duty continues for 3 months, then it is for 3 months that a large portion of your security apparatus, your entire administrative apparatus, is focused on ensuring elections and not on law order, not on protecting borders. It is there, it continues, but it is after all a depreciation. One. Number two is manpower in terms of teachers, in terms of government officials who have specific duties, who have specific targets to meet, who have specific focus on projects to be completed. Suddenly there is a disruption and they are sent on duties. And if this cycle repeatedly happens, then what happens to the overall education structure, the security apparatus, and the deliverables? Policy paralysis. You know that there is an election model code of conduct. As soon as the model code of conduct comes, there's nothing that you can do. You cannot make appointments. You cannot sanction projects. You cannot sanction funds. You cannot take any decision till the new government comes to power. You are hamstrung. And if every 2 months, every 3 months, there is an election which goes on, then this model code of conduct, MCC, and its implementation, and that you have to follow continuously MCC, and that you cannot do or take any major decision continues. Sometimes it is all over the country. Sometimes it is in states. As soon as that state is over, the entire focus goes to other state, and it's not that one single state goes to election. Together there are 5 states going to election. Sometimes it is in the northeast, at times it is in the northeast, which terrain is completely different, and then in Kerala, which is completely different weather-wise, terrain-wise, challenges-wise. And you have an election of 5 states going on in 5 directions of the country. The election commission forces security apparatus, that state's administrative apparatus, all going for full focus on managing the elections. One. The other is movement in terms of why did the business bodies say that no, simultaneous election is good for us? Because you would have noticed, we are in Delhi NCR region, more or less same for all other states. There is a huge migrant labor population which lives in these states. Now just imagine, he has to go back to vote in his village for the panchayat. If he's living in a town, municipality, close area or a corporation area, he has to go back to vote for that. He comes back. Again, he has to go and vote for state elections. He comes back. Again, he has to go to vote for his Lok Sabha election, for his parliamentary election. Because if he's a serious voter, if he wants to continue maintaining his existence in his village or back in his town, he has to come and vote. And apart from that, whenever if there is a medical emergency in the family, there are festivals where he needs to go back home and spend time with his family. He has to respond to a medical emergency. So there is a constant movement of migrant labor workers, and often they are unable to afford it. And every time there is a large movement, there is a depletion of economic and business activities. So it is not a question of only voter fatigue. We'll come to the voter fatigue issue later. The question is also those who want to vote, it's easy for them. They also, because after all, it is one vote. It's one vote, one right. I mean, there is no differentiation in our vote. One man, one vote. One woman, one vote. Now I come to the issue flagged by the committee, and that is voter fatigue. I mean, don't you feel sometimes that अभी तो इलेक्शन गया, फिर से वोट करना पड़ेगा, अरे छोड़ो एक बार ही करते हैं, इसको छोड़ देते हैं, क्या म्युनिसिपल निकलते नहीं है. Then the political election campaign is visible, and then you start feeling अभी assembly election खत्म हुआ, इतना बड़ा campaign हुआ, फिर से शुरू हो गया municipal election campaign, and then you have exams coming in between. So for the campaigner, the challenge is that he can't use loudspeakers, he can't use megaphones, he can't hold large public meetings, it has to be confined to at times hall meetings. All these complications are there, but the voter fatigue factor is most important. Now I'll just give you two figures. Elections, I'll take 2 points simultaneously. One is the economic factor, and those students of commerce will be able to do a better work. I have the figures as we have discussed, as it has appeared in the committee's arguments. The 2024 elections, more than 1 lakh crore were spent, reflecting a significant drain on the country's financial resources. By conducting elections only once every 5 years, the ECI would need to deploy resources only once, leading to a potential saving of about 12,000 crore. This is a broad estimate for sake of making the point. It can vary. Now, simultaneous election and voter fatigue. It has been found, for example, if you look at elections over the years, in states where simultaneous elections have been held, at one time in Karnataka, in Odisha, at one time in Kerala also, automatically you see that there is an increase in voter participation. Simultaneous elections in state have revealed that there is an increasing percentage of voter participation, because psychologically the voter feels मुझे जाकर एक बार ही वोट देना पड़ेगा, तो जाना चाहिए और देना चाहिए. One, and this has been shown. There was a 21% increase in northeastern states wherever simultaneous election was held. In Karnataka, for example, in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh in 1999, simultaneous elections were held. 11+% increase of voter turnout. Now, the other argument regarding the voter is that the voter will not be able to differentiate between the state and the center. The kind of government it wants at the state and the kind of government it wants at the center. But why should we think that the voter is so dumb? Odisha is there. Odisha is an example. For 25 years, the voters voted one state in the one party, one government in the state, and one party and one government in the center. Umpteen examples are there. Even if you look at patterns in the Lok Sabha elections, you will very clearly see in various states that the ruling party in the center is polling more votes, more seats than the ruling party in the state in that election. It is very clear. And a number of states, if you make a study, you will see, and therefore, I think to say that the voter is not matured enough, that the voter is not, he cannot differentiate between between the state and the voter cannot exercise his or her own preference. I think it is taking the voter extremely lightly. Over the last few years, few decades, the voter in India has shown what kind of preference it has in terms of public representatives, in terms of the party that it wants to come to power. Now I come, as I mentioned in the beginning, I come to the advantages that the elected representative will face once one nation, one election comes into effect. And please remember, we were discussing that it's not going to happen tomorrow. There is an entire timeline that has been given. So 2024 elections have taken place. In 2029, between 2029 and 2034, the one nation, one election structure would start being implemented. So what we are doing now is that you have a high-level committee report which has itself deliberated for 6 months. That report is there before everyone to access and to read. And what we are doing now is for the next 4 to 5 years, we are going to discuss this issue. And as the discussion happens, the committee's report, where it can be implemented and where it cannot be implemented, or it has to be modified, will be seen and will be taken forward. So there's no hurry. It's not that tomorrow itself there'll be an announcement that simultaneous elections are going to be implemented and that's it. All assemblies dissolved and Lok Sabha dissolved and you go in for new elections, etc. The other very important point is reduce of influence of money power and the single voter list, which is very important. In 1984, in the manifesto that I mentioned, one single epic number for every voter needs to be there was mentioned at that point. One nation, one election gives an opportunity to cleanse the voter roll. And you have one number for all elections, and that voter roll, since it comes into effect once in 5 years, you have a tremendous amount of time to be able to streamline it, to be able to clean it, and to be able to overhaul it. Because there have been, I'm sure you are aware, there have been fake voter ID cards. Like once upon a time during COVID, you must have heard fake vaccines also from one state. Fake vaccines were given by fake doctors. So there is a fake problem in the country. So you have fake voter ID cards are it's a very burning issue. So it gives the Election Commission to streamline the voter ID cards. The other is that the elected representative will have the time, the energy to focus in his own constituency. For example, I have won the Lok Sabha elections. Within 2 months, there is election in another state. My party asks me to go there, gives me the responsibility of 3 or 4 assembly segments. I have to go and sit there. I have to be there for 3 months. There is hardly any time for me to come back to my Lok Sabha, to come back to my constituents. And the constituents feel that we have elected him or her and she's out campaigning for 3 months, 6 months in a year continuously, and she or he has no time for us. So I think one argument is that, the representative will not be available. It will not be responsive because election will come once in 5 years. But the election will come. If the elected representative is not responsive, please change him in the next 5 years, after 5 years. And whether he is responsive or not, you will understand, because elections is going to be held only once in 5 years. So it is his duty to be present continuously, constantly in his constituency. And therefore you can even detect whether he is there or not. He cannot give you excuses. He cannot tell you party मुझे भेज दिया, इलेक्शन काम देके ड्यूटी देके मुझे दूसरे प्रदेश में भेज दिया, इसलिए मैं आ नहीं पाया, क्षमा कर दीजिए 3 महीने में बाहर था. नहीं बोल पाएगा, क्योंकि इलेक्शन तो सिर्फ 5 साल में आ रहा है. तो आप कहां जा रहे हैं? पंचायत भी, म्युनिसिपल भी, सब कुछ एक बार में ही हो जाएगा. तो आप कहां गए थे? So you can not only pull him up, you can question him and her, and she or he will also be duty bound to be present in his or her constituency. Now, I'll just give one figure, and maybe then one can just wind up. I mentioned about the 2019 all-party meeting. In 2019, when the all-party meeting was called, and why I'm making this point, there is an argument which says the regional parties will gradually lose force, will gradually lose their capacity to resist and survive. Let us remember the example of Odisha. In Odisha, there was a regional party which ruled for 25 years. 25 years with simultaneous election being held in the state. And one can take various such examples also. Now, out of 19 parties which had attended that all-party meeting on One Nation, One Election in 2019, just 5 years ago, 16 parties favored the idea of simultaneous election. And who were these 16 parties? These 16 parties were regional parties, most of them, such as the NCP, the JDU, the YSR Congress, the BRS, the Lok Jan Shakti Party, the Shiromani Akali Dal, the National People's Party in Meghalaya, and the Biju Janata Dal. So very interesting, if you look at the entire sequence, if you look at the entire debate, it's very interesting that there has already been a very comprehensive consultation with many political parties. And maximum the regional parties are favoring it, because also the regional parties will have to go election only once. If there is continuous election, they have to also be continuously on the move. And a senior leader like Sharad Pawar in 2019, in a letter to then Minister for Law, had said, Parliamentary Affairs and Law and Justice, had said, One Nation, One Election is a good idea. A number of other leaders, if you see in their memoirs, in their biographies, they are complaining about constant elections. It will make a good exercise if somebody can study some of these biographies and bring out a small, note. For example, late Karunanidhi's biography in Tamil, he's saying that this constant electioneering is a burden on governance. It slows down our capacity to deliver. So all these, broad points were there. I urge all of you to please read the report. And also please know that across the world, there are countries where simultaneous elections are held. It is not that it is only in India that this, the entire debate or this entire proposal has come. We have discussed about governance stability, cost efficiency, federal structure coordination, voter turnout, and the economic benefit. And what is important is that you should form your own idea. You should form your own opinion. And election fatigue, voter fatigue is a very palpable, is a very concrete psychological state also. And election fatigue is a very palpable physical state for the candidate also, and for the campaigner also. So I think it makes for very interesting debate and the times ahead. And I think you can form groups, you can have debates, you can read, you can yourself raise questions also. Questions, most of it which has been technically answered, and that's why I had requested that there should be someone who will be able to also look at it from the constitutional and legal point of view. For example, bringing in no confidence motion. At every drop of hat, you bring in no confidence motion. But you please rest assured that even if you form the government, it's going to only be for that period. You cannot complete another full term. So there are various issues which come up. But if you look at this exercise from panchayat to parliament in one go, it is going to streamline a number of dimensions in this country. And most importantly, the dimension of resources and of governance. Thank you very much for giving me a very patient hearing. I hope I've been able to kindle some interest and some inquisitiveness in you. I'm sure your seniors who are here, your guides, your teachers will be able to further guide you, but please keep this exercise going on. Please keep this exercise going on. It's a very fascinating exercise. Please remember that we held all these elections successfully. It's a record from the entire world. People come and study the Indian election system. It is a model which has emerged. So I think we should not impute motives to even the election commission. I mean, there is a mindset which says if I lose, the EVMs are faulty. If I win, they are good. If I lose, the election commission is biased. If I win, or the election commission is neutral. I think we should get off this mindset. This mindset has it's a childish, frivolous mindset which has no place in a democracy. Let us debate. Let us discuss, because it is after all your future. You will be free to unleash your energies, to unleash the energies of this potential energies of this great country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom and knowledge. Now we open the floor.
Could I enlighten you sufficiently?
Very good. We now open the floor for questions. If you have any queries related to the topic, please feel to ask the speaker.
सर माय नेम इज कैडेट हेमंत कुमार सर जैसा कि हमें पता है कुछ भी नया लॉ पास होता है या हमें हमेशा दूसरी कंट्री से कंपेयर करा जाता है सो माय क्वेश्चन इज हाउ डज द मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन इंडिया कंपेयर टू अदर कंट्रीज साइमल्टेनियस इलेक्शंस
आप हमारे इलेक्शन मॉडल एक तो है आप बैठ सकते हैं आराम से। तो एक है कि आप अगर हमारे पड़ोसी देशों को देखते हैं तो आपको समझ में आ जाएगा हमारा इलेक्शन मॉडल और उनका इलेक्शन मॉडल। ये एक ही साउथ एशिया में अगर आप देखते हैं और कुछ हद तक साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में भी हमारा ये जो इलेक्शन मॉडल सिस्टम है, इट इज यूनिक टू अस और द ओनली सक्सेसफुल डेमोक्रेसी डिस्पाइट ऑल चैलेंजेस ये हम ही हैं, क्योंकि हमारा माइंडसेट, मानसिकता सिविलाइजेशनली ही डेमोक्रेटिक है। रिपब्लिकन सिस्टम जो पहले हुआ करता था, जनपदस का जो आपने पढ़ा होगा, ये सारे एक्सुडेड अ सर्टेन डेमोक्रेटिक माइंडसेट, स्पिरिट। एक सेकंड है कि मैंने जो कहा था कि कई देशों में वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन है, पर हमारे पास अपना खुद का मॉडल हम इवॉल्व करना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे यहां पहले वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन हुआ करता था। जब उन देशों में इलेक्शन था ही नहीं, आज से 70-72 साल पहले हमारे यहां इलेक्शन शुरू हुआ। और यह भी याद रखना चाहिए कि पहले आम चुनाव जो हुआ 1951-52 में, वहां कंबाइंड अपोजिशन वोट जो था वो रूलिंग पार्टी, उस समय के जो पार्टी जीता, कांग्रेस पार्टी पंडित जी के नेतृत्व में, कंबाइंड अपोजिशन वोट उनसे ज्यादा था। तो इसलिए हम जब कहते हैं कि हाँ इतिहास के खातिर कि हाँ ये एक पार्टी ने इस देश में लोकतंत्र का नींव रखा, हमको ये भी याद रखना चाहिए कि जो विपक्ष में थे उस समय वो सारे सोशलिस्ट भी थे, जनसंघ भी थे, ट्राइबल पार्टीज भी थे, कम्युनिस्ट भी थे, सब मिलके भी इस देश का नींव, लोकतांत्रिक नींव जो है रखा। तो हमारे यहाँ जो हमारा जो अप्रोच है पिछले 72 साल और 400 इलेक्शंस हमने कंडक्ट किया है, इसके ऊपर आधार करके ही हम अपना मॉडल बनाएंगे। बाकी तो है, साउथ अफ्रीका में है, स्वीडन में है, यूएस का मॉडल आप देखिए, ठीक है। पर वेस्टर्न डेमोक्रेसीज का एक चैलेंज है जो कि इसका यहां विषय नहीं है, पर फिर भी मैं कहता हूं आप पढ़िएगा तो देखेंगे इट्स अ चैलेंज। वेस्टर्न डेमोक्रेसीज का चैलेंज क्या है? यूथ पार्टिसिपेशन इन पॉलिटिक्स कम हो रहा है, उनका यूथ वोटिंग पैटर्न्स परसेंटेज कम हो रहा है, और हमारे यहां यूथ पार्टिसिपेशन इन पॉलिटिक्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ वोटिंग, इन टर्म्स ऑफ कॉन्टेस्टिंग बढ़ रहा है। तो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है। इसलिए आप में से कई लोग अगर आपके मन में है कि आप सार्वजनिक जीवन में राजनीतिक क्षेत्र में काम करना चाहते हैं, सो दैट इज ऑल्सो एन ऑप्शन। पब्लिक पॉलिसी क्षेत्र में भी काम करना चाहते हैं, दैट इज एन ऑप्शन। सो वी आर कंटिन्यूअसली हैविंग अ ग्रेटर पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ यूथ इन द डेमोक्रेटिक एक्सरसाइज विच इज वेरी यूनिक। तो हम अपने तरीके से इस मॉडल को डेवलप करेंगे।
Sir, my question is, what are the major concerns raised by the regional political parties regarding one nation, one election?
It's very difficult for me to understand. And not very difficult. It is
tricky. Because as I told you, in 2019, when the all-party meeting took place on 1NOE, most of the regional parties, I named all of them, they supported one nation, one election. They wanted. So regional parties per se are not opposed to it. But there is a point of view which says that one nation, one election will crush regional parties. But then I don't see any corroborating evidences on that. Because I gave the example of Odisha. 25 years one regional party ruled Odisha. Oh, Tamil Nadu, you see, regional party. For last 55 years, regional Congress was in power in Tamil Nadu last in 1967. उसके बाद कांग्रेस पावर में आया ही नहीं है तमिलनाडु में, रीजनल पार्टीज रूल किया है। तो मुझे नहीं लगता है कि रीजनल पार्टीज को इनफैक्ट अपना रिसोर्सेज सेव कर पाएंगे, अपने एनर्जी सेव कर पाएंगे। बस एक बार 5 साल में इलेक्शन हो गया, कोई हेडेक नहीं, पंचायत में जाना नहीं है हमको, इसमें जाना नहीं है, उसमें नहीं करना है, हम अपना रिसोर्सेज फोकस कर सकते हैं। अभी क्या होता है, मैं अगर बंगाल के संदर्भ में मैं कहता हूं, पिछले बार मैंने कहा तो कुछ लोग बहुत चिढ़ गए बंगाल में, जिनको ये समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या कह रहा हूं, लाइव भी हो रहा है तो लोग देखते भी हैं। मैं कह रहा हूं कि देखिए इलेक्शन इकोनॉमी बन गया है। क्या है इलेक्शन इकोनॉमी? मैं कहता हूं अच्छा इलेक्शन आएगा तो लोकसभा इलेक्शन आएगा, कुछ लोग अपना दुकान खोल के बैठ जाते हैं, उनका उसमें आमदनी होता है, फिर दे आर वेटिंग फॉर पंचायत इलेक्शंस टू कम, वहां भी दुकान खोल के बैठ जाते हैं, म्युनिसिपल इलेक्शंस में दुकान खोल के बैठ जाते हैं। और बंगाल में ये दुकान क्या है, कोई बम बारूद बंदूक बनाता है, कोई बूथ कैप्चरिंग का सारा प्रावधान करता है, ये सब होता है, कोई वोटरों को डराने के लिए दुकान खोल देता है। तो ऐसा भी दुकानें चलते हैं, और ये दुकान आपको जितना इलेक्शन होगा उतना उनको इनकम भी होगा, तो बंद कर दो। साल में एक बार ही होगा, वो भी इतना निगरानी में होगा कि इनकम करने का बेचारा कोई स्कोप ही नहीं रहेगा। इनकम करना भी क्यों है, ये तो अंडरहैंड इनकम है ना, तुम लोगों को डरा के इलेक्शन के माहौल बना के कर रहे हो ये सब। सो आई थिंक रीजनल पार्टीज विल अल्टीमेटली बेनिफिट, बिकॉज एज मेरे पास है आंकड़े हैं मेरे पास, आउट ऑफ 19 पार्टीज विच पार्टिसिपेटेड, मैं फिर से दोहरा रहा हूं, 16 फेवर्ड द आइडिया ऑफ साइमल्टेनियस इलेक्शन। और उसमें से कौन से पार्टीज थे? उसमें से थे जेडीयू, एनसीपी। अब एनसीपी, तब एक ही एनसीपी हुआ करता था, अभी 3-4 एनसीपी है, तो सब कहेंगे कि हाँ ठीक है, मैं मान के चलता हूं एनसीपी, जेडीयू, वाईएसआर कांग्रेस, बीआरएस। आप कहेंगे वाईएसआर कांग्रेस ये बीजेपी को मदद करता है इसलिए वो ठीक है, छोड़ दो। बीआरएस तो नहीं करता है। एलजेपी, शिरोमणि अकाली दल और एनपीपी और बीजेडी, बीजेडी तो कभी नहीं किया समर्थन बीजेपी को। तो सारी रीजनल पार्टीज है।
My question is, how would simultaneous election impact good governance and policy making in India?
Ratan, you see, this is a question, this is actually the core and the fundamental.
जैसे मैंने दिया, फिर से मैं दोहरा रहा हूं, उदाहरण के लिए आपने, मैं दो आयाम इसका मैं बता रहा हूं। उदाहरण के लिए आपने एक, आपके जनप्रतिनिधि को आपने चुना है। अब आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि ही शुड बी अवेलेबल, उनका एक कार्यकारी ऑफिस होना चाहिए, उसमें ये ऑफिस सारे ऐसे डफर लोग नहीं बैठे रहेंगे, रिस्पॉन्स करेंगे, तुरंत जो भी समस्या आता है उसका हल ढूंढेंगे, किसी को सिफारिश करना है चिट्ठी भेजेंगे, कहीं एडमिशन करवाना है हॉस्पिटल में, दवाई लाना है, ये सब प्रावधान उपलब्ध करना है, करेंगे। आपने सिलेक्ट किया, इलेक्ट किया, उसके बाद ये महाशय चले जाते हैं कैंपेनिंग के लिए। अब जाना पड़ता है, उनके पार्टी ने कहा उनको जाने के लिए, अपने पार्टी का नेता भी वो है, आपके इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, पर उनके पार्टी का नेता भी है, वो चले जाते हैं। और जाकर आप अगर इलेक्शन सिस्टम कैसा होता है, पार्टीज कैसे कैंपेन करते हैं, आप देखेंगे कि बहुत सिस्टमैटिकली कैंपेन होता है कुछ पार्टियों में। तो वहां उनको क्षेत्रीय दायित्व दिया जाता है, 2-3 अगर लोकसभा का हो तो एक पार्लियामेंट्री क्षेत्र दिया जाता है, विधानसभा का हो तो 2-3 विधानसभा दिया जाता है, और वो एकदम विधानसभा स्तर से मंडल स्तर तक, पंचायत स्तर तक उसके बैठकें लेना पड़ता है, कैंपेन प्लानिंग करना पड़ता है, सजाना पड़ता है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इलेक्शन कमीशन के ऑफिशियल्स के साथ क्या क्या हो रहा है वो सब मॉनिटर करना पड़ता है, सोशल मीडिया मॉनिटर करना, सब कुछ। उसके पास कहां समय है वापस आना, आ ही नहीं पाता है वापस, 3 महीना बैठा रहता है वहां, 2 महीना बैठा रहता। तो अगर 365 दिन में 12 महीने में 3 महीना एक इलेक्शन में उसका बीता, दूसरा 3 महीना बीता, दूसरा और एक इलेक्शन में 6 महीना वैसे ही निकल गया। सो माई पॉइंट इज, इट अफेक्ट्स द गवर्नेंस एट द ग्रासरूट थ्रू इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव। ना अपना प्रॉमिस फुलफिल कर सकता है, ना संपर्क कर सकता है लोगों से। एक दूसरा है, मैंने जो कहा एमसीसी वाला, पॉलिसी पैरालिसिस। अब एमसीसी लागू कर दो ना, मैं वीरेंद्र जी के तरफ देख के ऐसा करके कुछ बोल सकता हूं, बोलेगा कि अरे आपका दृष्टि ऐसा था तो हाइट ऐसा था, आपने ये यूज किया तो हो गया बस। तो हम लोग 3 महीना आपस में देखेंगे नहीं, कुछ करेंगे नहीं, ऐसा सीधा बैठे रहेंगे, ना कुछ फाइल आगे बढ़ेगा, ना कुछ अपॉइंटमेंट होगा। एवरीथिंग कम्स टू अ स्टैंड स्टिल बिकॉज ऑफ द एमसीसी। हुआ लोकसभा, उसके बाद अच्छा, लोकसभा जब होता है देश भर में लागू रहता है एमसीसी, उसके बाद स्टेट्स में इलेक्शंस चलता है, तो फिर अरे वो स्टेट अभी लोकसभा में झेला है एमसीसी, अभी फिर से झेल रहा है इसमें। So, that affects then government. No decision, major decision from the center to the state level can be taken. Kyun? Why? And throughout the year, सारे महीने कहीं ना कहीं कुछ ना कुछ इलेक्शंस हो रहा है। Why? Why should it be that? कर दो, एक बार में खत्म करके करो। Please focus on governance. Please focus on representing your people and be available for them. तो जैसे मैं एक उदाहरण देता हूं ना, मेट्रो, मैंने जादवपुर, मेरा ये जो लोकसभा वाला क्षेत्र, मेट्रो का काम बढ़िया चल रहा था, बंद हो गया 3 महीना, नहीं कर पाएंगे आप, वेट करना पड़ता है, एकदम मिनिमम कुछ बेर मिनिमम होगा, तो वो 3 महीना डिले हो गया, और 3 महीना डिले से हो चले जाता है 6 महीना डिले। एंड दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कनेक्टिविटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ मेट्रो, ठप पड़ा है। सो
सर, आपने हमारी गेम्स को बहुत अच्छे से गिफ्ट किया। नाउ I request you to join me in the welcoming to President Staff Association, Dr. Krishna Murari, sir, to deliver the vote of thanks.